is the first chapter of Genesis. When God began to create the heavens and the earth was complete chaos, and darkness covered the face of the deep, while a wind from God swept over the face of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw that the light was good, and God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. And God said, "Let there be a dome in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters." So God made the dome and separated the waters that were under the dome from the waters that were above the dome. And it was so. God called the dome sky, and there was evening, and there was morning, the second day. And God said, "Let the waters under the sky be gathered together in one place, and let the dry land appear." And it was so. God called the dry land earth, and the waters that were gathered together he called seas. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let the earth put forth vegetation, plants yielding seed and fruit trees of every kind on earth that bear fruit with the seed in it." And it was so. The earth brought forth vegetation, plants yielding seed of every kind, and trees of every kind bearing fruit with the seed in it. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the third day. And God said, "Let there be lights in the dome of the sky to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years. And let them be lights in the dome of the sky to give light upon the earth." And it was so. God made the two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night, and the stars. God set them in the dome of the sky to give light upon the earth, to rule over the day and over the night, and to separate the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the fourth day. And God said, "Let the waters bring forth swarms of living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the dome of the sky." So God created the great sea monsters and every living creature that moves, of every kind, with which the waters swarm, and every winged bird of every kind. And God saw that it was good. God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters and the seas, and let birds multiply on the earth." And there was evening, and there was morning, the fifth day. And God said, "Let the earth bring forth living creatures of every kind, cattle and creeping things, and wild animals of the earth of every kind." And it was so. God made the wild animals of the earth of every kind, and the cattle of every kind, and everything that creeps upon the ground of every kind. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let us make humans in our image, according to our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the wild animals of the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth." So God created humans in his image. In the image of God he created them, male and female he created them. God blessed them, and God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves upon the earth." God said, "See, I have given you every plant yielding seed that is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree with seed in its fruit. You shall have them for food. And to every beast of the earth, and to every bird of the air, and to everything that creeps on the earth, everything that has the breath of life, I have given every green plant for food." And it was so. God saw everything that he had made, and indeed it was very good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the sixth day. Our second reading is from The book of Revelation. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. And I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, "See, the home of God is among mortals. He will dwell with them. They will be his peoples. And God himself will be with them and be their God. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. Death will be no more. Mourning and crying and pain will be no more, for the first things have passed away." And the one who was seated on the throne said, "See, I am making all things new." Also he said, "Write this, for these words are trustworthy and true." Then he said to me, "It is done. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. To the thirsty I will give water as a gift from the spring of the water of life." Please stand if you're able for the reading of our gospel. And hear these words from the book of John. When Mary came where Jesus was and saw him, she knelt at his feet and said to him, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who came with her also weeping, he was greatly disturbed in spirit and deeply moved. He said, "Where have you laid him?" They said to him, "Lord, come and see." Jesus began to weep. So the Jews said, "See how he loved him." But some of them said, "Could not he who opened the eyes of the blind man have kept this man from dying?" Then Jesus, again greatly disturbed, came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone was lying against it. Jesus said, "Take away the stone." Martha, the sister of the dead man, said to him, "Lord, already there is a stench because he has been dead 4 days." Jesus said to her, "Did I not tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God?" So they took away the stone. And Jesus looked upward and said, "Father, I thank you for having heard me. I knew that you always hear me, but I have said this for the sake of the crowd standing here, so that they may believe that you sent me." When he had said this, he cried out with a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out!" The dead man came out, his hands and feet bound with strips of cloth, and his face wrapped in a cloth. Jesus said to them, "Unbind him and let him go." This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God. Let us pray. Breathe on me, breath of God, till I am wholly thine. All this earthly part of me glows with thy fire divine. And may the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts be holy and acceptable unto you, O God, our rock and our redeemer. Amen. Now, I would bet that those of you sitting here and those of you hearing me would not find your names in the index of the Oxford Dictionary of Saints. I would bet also that those of you here would not find yourself in stained glass in a cathedral or a church. Any of you in stained glass? Nope. And I would bet, since you're here listening to me, that none of you have been martyred. Since you're here, that's a safe guess. None of you have been martyred. But you're a saint. You're a saint. Funny how that works. You are a saint. You see, a saint isn't some dead person that we worship. A saint is everyone. Do you know that the Episcopal Church in the Book of Common Prayer puts the celebration and worship of All Saints' Day up there with Easter and Christmas? Right up there. This is a high holy day. And it's one of those days when if it falls during the week, we move it to a Sunday. It's that important. All Saints' Day. And it's not just for a person with superhero faith or a saint. It's all saints. Everyone. So I think it's about time we start proclaiming it, celebrating it, and living it. After all, God has made you holy, has sanctified you, and has called you. He finds you so important that he lives within you. So why do we feel so lousy about ourselves? Why do we feel so lousy about ourselves? If God chooses us, why do we feel so lousy about ourselves? Why? We are saints. We should be proclaiming it, celebrating it, living it. We are saints. We have action figures in God's toy store. We are saints. And yet, we don't often proclaim it, live it, or celebrate it. You know, our self-image often goes downhill. We often feel bad about ourselves, or worse about ourselves, or don't feel we live up to our neighbor, or don't feel we do this, or don't feel we do that. But didn't you hear Jesus say, I chose you? You didn't choose me. And in that whole creation story, who did God make in his image? You. You were made in the image of God. So why do we feel so crappy about ourselves? You were made in the image of God. You're a saint. You're a saint. Live it, proclaim it, celebrate it. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not a sinner, because saints have pasts. I never know a saint who didn't have a past and a sinner who didn't have a future. Okay? A saint who didn't have a past and a sinner who didn't have a future. A sainthood is not based on what you believe and what you don't believe, or what you do or what you don't do. It's not based on that. We get all caught up in our works righteousness, all caught up in achievement, all caught up in this is what we have to do to be a saint. No. God chose you. It's not about works. It's about God making you holy and sanctified, and you can't do anything about it. Teilhard de Chardin, a Jesuit priest, once said, we are not human beings having a spiritual journey, but we are spiritual beings having a human journey. Did you get that? We are not human beings having a spiritual journey. We are spiritual beings having a human journey. We have been chosen. Once upon a time, a master at a monastery became enlightened. He said before he became enlightened, he carried water and chopped wood. After he became enlightened, he said, I carry water and chop wood. And another story, a master said to one of his young monks, you have become enlightened. All the other young monks gathered around him and said, is it true you have become enlightened? And the young monk said, it is, I've become enlightened. And he said, they all asked him, how do you feel? And he said, as miserable as ever. We are saints. But it doesn't mean that we're extraordinary. It doesn't mean that we have superpowers. It means that we have been chosen by God as a child of God. And yes, we can do a lot to corrupt that image. Just watch CNN or the 6 o'clock news. Look how we abuse that image. Look how we profane that image. But you are a saint. Live it, proclaim it, celebrate it. Fred Craddock. This is an old story, so many of you might have heard it before, and I'm going to preach it again. Fred Craddock was on vacation, having dinner with his wife in a little restaurant. And he wanted to be by himself and his wife. Didn't want to be interrupted. Well, there was a man in the restaurant going around talking to everyone in the restaurant. And he got to Fred and his wife and he said, hi, you must be from out of state. Where are you from? And Fred said, Oklahoma. And he goes, what do you do there? And Fred goes, I teach homiletics at a graduate seminary at Phillips University. He goes, oh, you teach preachers. Well, do I have a story for you? And I could imagine Fred Craddock rolling his eyes and thinking, get away from me now. But the man sat down and told him his story. The man said, I grew up not far from here, across the mountains. I have a father. I was born without one. Well, I was born with one, but I never knew my father. I was teased mercilessly, taunted. My mother raised me. Every day at school, the kids called me a name that I won't even repeat. I did recess by myself in a corner and ate lunch by myself. Taunted terribly. Weekends were no better. If I went into town, I kind of had to hide. And church was no good either. I came in late and left early. One year we got a new preacher. I always came in late and left early. But this one particular Sunday, the preacher got the benediction out so fast, I didn't get a chance to leave. And so there I was, going out with the crowd, and everyone staring at me. And I knew I was in trouble. The preacher put his hand on my shoulder, looked me in my eye and said, whose son are you? And I thought to myself, here we go again. I can't even avoid it at church. I'm going to be put out again. And then the preacher said, I notice. Yes, I notice. I notice the family resemblance. And he looked me in the eye and he said, you are a son of God. Go out and claim it. He goes, that sentence changed my life. Then the man got up and started greeting other tables. A few minutes later, the waitress came by and said, do you know who that is? And Fred said, no. He introduced himself as Ben Hooper. She goes, Ben Hooper was a long-term governor of Tennessee. You are a child of God. You are a child of God. You are a child of God. Proclaim it. Celebrate it. Live it. You are a saint. Go forth and claim it this day. Because there's nothing you can do to get rid of it. You were chosen. You were chosen. You were chosen. Thanks be to God. Amen.